Welcome to the War Room. All right, every Wednesday from 5 to 6. We get into some politics, all right? So let's get into the panel today. I think we've got a fantastic panel. Joining us once again is Arizona State Senator John Kavanagh, a Republican. Good to see you, State Senator.
Good to be seen.
All right. And we've got the Democrat, Arizona State Secretary of State Adrian Fontes, first time in the War Room, many times on the show. Well, glad to have you in the War Room.
I'm super happy to be here, not in my official capacity.
Here, yes. Is it not your official capacity?
Well, no, because I got to run the election, so I have to stay non-political when I do my job. So when I come here, I am a Democrat. I'm a proud Democrat.
You're firing today,
but we're firing on all cylinders today.
Good. Good.
Okay. I am in all capacities.
It goes without saying. Why don't we start with immigration and raids? If you look at some poll numbers in January, 56% of registered voters approved of Trump's handling on immigration. That's 56% in January. Take it to July. It's not 56 anymore. It's 42% of adults approving of Trump's handling of immigration. Let's start with you, State Senator Kavanagh. Do these raids disproportionately target certain ethnic groups, particularly Latino communities? Is that what we're seeing with the raids?
It depends on how you define disproportionately. If Group A, if an overwhelming majority of illegal immigrants are members of Group A, and let's say that, I'm making whatever the number, say 40% are Group A, then you would expect 40% of the raids to be targeting, But then again, you don't really have actual areas where you target them. I'm not sure how you can target, say, an Hispanic in Phoenix, given that most of them are perfectly legal and everybody's walking. It isn't like we have a neighborhood where we're doing this. So,
but isn't that the question? How are these people then being
chosen,
picked out of a group? Then what are the parameters people are using?
Whatever they are unchristian. I can't see how anybody can say they're a Christian and treat someone from another land in their own land this way. It's mean is what it is. It's mean-spirited. A lot of these folks are being picked up by, hooded thugs in the street in the most un-American way. So I just think the spirit behind this, whether or not the poll numbers are up or down, that's kind of the window dressing here. At the end of the day, what we're looking at is scaring the hell out of people on purpose because we don't like them. And it's an unchristian-based way of not liking people because they're from somewhere else. And by the way, Immigration and Naturalization Services didn't exist in the Middle East in the aughts when we're talking about years. So you can't base this on anything other than what we know. And I don't think our Lord and Savior would be happy with the way that these vulnerable populations are being treated. Now, as for the numbers, Democrats have nothing to celebrate here. 4 days ago, the Wall Street Journal came back and said that Democrats have a 63% disapproval rating, and that's a problem. So regardless
you think
of
a lot of that's driven by immigration, what happened under the Biden administration?
My political party has got its head up its posterior and is doing absolutely nothing to really bark back and fight back in an effective way.
Don't forget wokeness. Hey, look, render unto Caesar things that are Caesar's and to God the things that are God. Immigration law is a civil law passed in the United States by Congress, signed by the president, and all of the pro-illegal immigration people have not, for the last decade or two, been able to nudge that law an inch. They can't even get legal status passed for so-called dreamers. People want the law enforced. So it's not mean-spirited, it's enforcing the law.
So if we're going to render unto Caesar, then we probably shouldn't be praying on the floor of the House of Representatives or on the floor of the Senate. If it is Caesar's, then it should be bereft of religion. But that's a different topic.
Are you going to remove "In God We Trust" from our coins?
Well, we only put it in. It only came into our coinage in the 50s, and that was as against the communist Russians. Let's not try to remake history.
Let's have a quick detour for constitutional law. Okay, the First Amendment presents the establishment of a religion, like a Protestant religion, like what was happening in England. It doesn't say that God doesn't belong in the public square or government because it's all over government, and all governments do prayers.
Yeah, well, Jesus said, do it in your closet. So,
if you want to do the atheist thing, I'm not going to stop you.
I happen to be a Catholic, but I don't care if atheists. I don't care who you pray to or how you do it, as long as you do it freely and you don't get somebody else's religion shoved down your throat. But at the end of the day, this is mean.
Well,
And they
who's-
say, and they say,
who's
and they
forcing
say,
religion
and they
down
say,
anybody's
and they
throat?
say that they're just enforcing the law. But let's be really clear about this.
Yeah, mean versus enforcing the law.
Mean versus enforcing the law. What we are hearing is, and we've seen this from immigration judges, they're being told dismiss asylum cases for folks so that those ICE agents waiting outside the courtroom
In
will
the
be able-
hallway,
in the hallway will be able to pick them up.
Happens all the time in law
If that is-
enforcement.
if
One
that is-
jurisdiction will drop charges so another jurisdiction can take control. Nothing new, historic.
And it is from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, not the United States of America against
the federal
someone
government
who's
is a
seeking
jurisdiction.
amnesty.
Federal government is a
but the-
universal
it's-
jurisdiction.
and well, look, you can hide behind the law and give up your humanity. You can hide behind a strictly constructionist view of this and get away from dignity. You can say that you're being upright and forget about the innocent or the victim or the people that we're supposed to be protecting and defending, which are the least among us, or you can have sanctimony and point your fingers at people. But I'll tell you what, nobody seems to care about the guy with 34 felony counts in the White House when it comes to being a law and order
Not
sort of
with the
society.
sound bites. Like ICE
No, it's not a
agents,
soundbite.
ICE
You're the one
agents
that brought
are
onto Caesar.
ICE agents are law enforcement agents doing their job, and they have to wear the masks because they're doxxed by open border proponents who want to get their name and endanger their families.
With all
So
due respect,
I have no problem.
With all due respect, Mr. Kavanagh, you have no idea the threats that I have personally faced,
Well,
or
put
that
it-
my family's personally faced, and I don't have to wear a mask because I'm not acting illegally.
I don't mind if you
I'm
want to
not
wear a
being
mask.
mean to people.
You can wear a mask.
I'm not.
It's
Well,
good.
you know, sometimes folks like you might need one
Can I
because you're
pick- can I-
embarrassed
can
by
I
the
pick
work
the
that
mask?
you're doing because you're embarrassed by it.
I'm proud to have been a cop for
here's the
20
other thing.
years. I'm
Here's the other
proud to have helped
I think cops are great.
immigration when I was a cop because I support the law.
I appreciate what law enforcement agents do when they
But
do
you
it
call
to
them
protect.
thugs.
I didn't say the word thug. Now you're lying.
I don't play the tape. What, mask thugs, or did you use a similar derogatory
what
term?
I'm saying is this.
You didn't say law enforcement
when
officers.
you remove humanity, dignity, mercy, and decency
How is it
from
enforced?
governance, what you're doing is saying the most powerful will rule over the least without mercy.
So when I was a cop and I locked up somebody who committed a crime, I was a thug. I was not being humane because I enforced the law.
When the law is amnesty and people are fleeing places where they might get killed if they stay there,
Spare
the
me.
Statue of Liberty stands for these unwashed, huddled masses yearning to be free. And this home of freedom is now turning into a place of fear because of these ridiculous policies.
People being removed do not have claims of asylum. If they did, they'd be on hold.
What about the
or they've had the
four-year-old
claims
what
of
about
asylum.
the 4-year-old cancer patient who's getting removed because their parents have some issue?
I
There's
believe
no
that
mercy
her
there.
mother made
There's
the-
no decency
The
there.
child's
So-
mother
so
made the
sins of
choice
the
of
parent.
staying with
So the sins of
her
the father.
child. And you know what? If
So
I
the
was
sins of the
being
father.
deported from a
So it's the
country, I
sins
would
of the
take my
father.
kids with me too. I wouldn't
But
abandon my
I'll
4-year-old
tell you
child.
what, I can't.
That's heartless.
I can't
How can you
abide.
say that?
What I can say is being mean is no way to govern.
So who gets deported? Who? Yeah, like
being
18
mean,
million people.
being mean
18
and being rough against vulnerable people, against workers, against people who just want to live their lives and try to live the American dream. That's just mean.
Let's go to Senator Kavanagh.
Cue the violins.
Who should be going? And we're in the war room. We've got Secretary of State Adrian Fontes. We've got Arizona State Senator John Kavanagh. Because you brought up Secretary of State Fontes, a 6-year-old. I mean, yeah, I've got a list. I've got a 48-year-old landscaper who was working outside an IHOP, and he was tackled. Okay, from what I understand, his only crime was coming in illegally, but he's been here quite a while and doesn't have a record.
Well, do you think that's why the poll numbers, at least if you believe it, the poll numbers aren't as supportive of it, is because Trump campaigned on kicking the criminals out, and now they're kicking
Let's
the
work
abuelitas
backwards,
out?
because maybe we can start with agreement.
Okay.
So roughly almost 9 million illegals came into the country during the Biden years.
That's
Because he
about
had
the
an
number I have.
open border policy. Those people have not been here a long time. Assuming that those people, right, assuming that they don't have legitimate asylum claims that are being processing, can we all agree that these recent arrivals should be picked up and deported?
100% yes. I agree.
Mr. Fontes.
It's a case-by-case basis. They
so-
all deserve their due process. That's what the Constitution requires.
And they get their they get an immigration hearing, and then they
get
go.
their due-
That's what's
They
happening.
get their due process, but you're making the
do you
conclusory.
support
You're
their
making the
removal?
conclusory statement that they should all be deported,
Okay.
and I don't have the luxury of that privilege because I believe in the Constitution of the United
Do you believe
States
they
of
should be
America.
apprehended,
If
get their hearing?
If after appropriate due process applied, they are deemed to have broken a law.
No.
And that's appropriate. But I'm talking about a rational.
They don't have to break a law.
Look, I'm not.
They have to be here illegally. So if they're here illegally,
How do you determine
and they
that?
get
How do you determine that?
how they determine that?
How do you determine their illegality?
Because they're not citizens. They weren't born here, and they don't have
but
naturalization
how do you determine
papers.
whether or not they're here legally?
That's what ICE does every day.
Due
The same way
process.
when I was a cop, I determined if you had a
the
driver's
words you
license.
don't want to utter are due process.
They get that. They're all entitled to a hearing. They're all getting hearings before. They just hired more hearing officers. So will you support the removal of those if they get a hearing? Those 10 million.
If they have due process,
And
which
you
means they get representation, which means they get to make their case as well. And if after that they are deemed to have been deemed to be deportable under the law, so be it.
All right,
but
we
I'm not
agree.
going to be.
Round
I'm
'em
not
up.
going to make.
Round 'em up.
But I'm not going to make the emotionally charged claim that every person who came here without documentation automatically should just be, as you say, rounded up and kicked the hell
Do
out.
you object to ICE
Because
picking these people up if they have to be adjudicated? Or will you send them engraved
you know
invitations?
What I object to? I object to fear in our communities. Do you?
Do you have a problem with
Do
ICE?
you want fear in our communities?
I want people here legally to not be
okay,
afraid.
so keep
I want
avoiding the question. Do you want fear in our
I
communities?
want fear. If you're here illegally, you should be scared out of your wits
So you
and
want
go home.
so you want scared people?
Scared illegal
Scared-
aliens.
Because here's what
scare
happens
'em.
with scared people.
Get them out.
Scared people won't report other crimes.
Oh, I've heard this line before.
Scared people won't participate in civil society. Scared people won't do the things that we want folks who want to build a life here to do normally.
We don't want them here because they're illegal. They're on their way out the door.
Every single study that's ever been done indicates that immigrants, whether they're illegal or not, generally speaking, will improve the
So
economy.
you want anybody who
They're good
comes
for
here
work.
illegally to stay? Is that what you're
Why,
saying?
why are you being so hyperbolic about this
Well,
and
you-
conclusory
now
in
you're
your
turning
statements?
around and
Look,
saying
I
that you
don't
want
have-
them all to stay
I don't
because
have
they're
the
good.
I
First
don't-
you were deporting them, now you're bringing them back.
Because look, I can walk and chew gum at the same time. I don't have a bumper sticker stupid philosophy on the world. Okay,
How about we do
I
this?
understand
How about-
process.
So you guys, there's a lot here. And by the way, this is probably my favorite segment ever because Bruce didn't speak.
He has his hand up. He has his
Yeah,
hand
he
up.
has his hand up.
I know he does.
Are you gonna
got
write
it.
are
He
you
has
gonna
one
write-
finger up.
I know.
We
So-
have
But it's not the middle finger. It's
State
not the
Senator
middle finger.
Kavanagh.
We have Arizona State Senator John Kavanagh, the Republican, and Arizona Secretary of State Adrian Fontes, the
I
Democrat.
don't think you have to identify us that way at this point in the show.
Big fight feel. That's a big
We're-
fight
is,
feel.
is that because both of our parties are extremely unpopular with the populace?
yeah, right?
I don't think we can. Republicans can't approach the current levels of the Democrat Party. But
Yeah, we've got some work to do. I will admit.
In the first segment, we're talking about raids. I heard round them up. I've heard America's being mean and fearful. Why don't we continue discussing immigration, but on a little bit of a different basis? The impact on Arizona's economy. About 16% of Arizona's workforce is made up of immigrants. This was a study by the American Immigration Council. If we start taking more and more people and deporting them,
Or they're afraid to go to work.
how are we going to get anything done in this state? Who do we hire?
would you define immigrants? Are you talking about illegal immigrants?
Yeah, I think
or
so.
immigrants.
Yeah, you're right. That's good. Illegal immigrants, yes.
Yeah. Well, first of all, like I said, there's probably about 18 million in the country at this point. They're not going to be deported overnight. This is a very slow process. And we also have procedures to let legal immigrants come in. There are people all over the world waiting to come here. And those are the people I want here, law-abiding people who get screened. In addition, for agriculture in southern Arizona, we already have programs where Mexicans come in as temporary workers. Some of them go back home every night. Some of them stay for a short period of time, then go back home, which is great because that helps Mexico too. They take their wages and they bring it back to Mexico and help to improve their economy in their small villages. It's a win-win. So I'm not worried because we can bring in more immigrants. We can use that program, and it's going to be a slow process. of getting the illegal immigrants out.
We're seeing people with green cards, though, detained. We're seeing
unless you
American
make it
citizens
so-
detained.
Unless you make it so hostile they don't want to come back because you're being mean to them for no really good reason. I mean, you're talking about 37% of Arizona's low-wage workers are immigrants. 37% of low-wage workers. Are you going to take one of those?
I don't think they're all illegal immigrants.
Well, maybe they aren't. Let's say half. All right.
Well,
you're still talking about 17%.
I'm an Arizona legislator. I am already one of those low-wage workers.
Well, respectfully, this isn't about you. What we're talking about.
That's true. I'm legal.
What we're talking about are people who are out there doing all the stuff that you wouldn't do.
And we'll get people here legally to do the stuff that I wouldn't do.
How? What if they don't want to come anymore?
The lines are so long in countries all over the world. Decent people who filed applications.
Which ones are you going to let in, John? And how are you going to do it?
Well, actually, we already had that system.
And when are you going to make that happen?
We already had that system. And by the way, it's a fair system because Democrat Senator Teddy Kennedy created fair quotas from all over the world.
Can you remind anybody under 60 who Ted Kennedy was?
He was a Democrat who I wasn't particularly fond about, but nevertheless, he did a few good things.
Okay, yeah, back before we had Betamax tapes, I think, right?
I'm
talking about today. I'm talking about today and moving forward.
Betamax and lost money.
When you talk about these things, you got to talk about what's happening today and what's happening moving forward. We have a globalized economy. It's much more. It's very, very different than the types of things that we were looking at in the past. But we still have what we have. We have a need for some of these low-wage workers, and we have them here. Why do you want to ruin what we've got? Because you're just being mean to them.
There's one other source.
Last word.
There's one other source of labor saving. That's automation. When Democrat states raised their minimum wage to the sky, fast food restaurants replaced the people at the counter who said, "Do you want cheese on that cheeseburger?" with the machine. And the same thing can happen in a lot of these trades.
You're talking about all the donor states that aren't taking money, but they're actually giving more money to the federal budget. The blue donor states, right? Those are the ones you're talking about?
Yeah,
or are you talking about
also called sanctuary states, which are harboring illegal
which have
immigrants.
better economies?
Joined by our esteemed guest in the War Room, Arizona's Secretary of State Adrian Fontes and Arizona State Senator John Kavanagh, representing. What district is that again, sir, out there in Fountain Hills?
3.
District 3.
I'm all over.
You're right. That is a bizarre district.
I go across northern Phoenix. I go Anthem, Cave Creek, Carefree, New River.
Have you ever been to Baghdad?
Baghdad, Arizona. Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, that's right. There is a Baghdad. No, I haven't.
Oh, okay.
We'll have to find out who represents them at some point.
There's this great road that winds all the way up the hill to get there.
I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah, take your sports car. It's
All
a lot
right.
of fun.
All right. So we're going to switch gears from the immigration conversation of the last half hour. And one thing that's certainly been in the news lately is the ESA voucher program, Empowerment Scholarship Accounts, where there certainly has been a lot of stories recently that would lead one to believe that there isn't, I think the best way to put it, isn't the level of oversight that might be needed for this program to operate efficiently. We know that this thing could blow a hole in the budget. I have a question, and I want to start with you, Senator Kavanagh, because we had Governor Hobbs in here yesterday. Are you aware? I know you're aware. I don't mean to be demeaning. How do you justify the cost of this program moving forward as it just continues to grow and doesn't seem to have been planned to be this big?
Okay. Well, I'm not necessarily sure it wasn't planned to be this big.
Okay.
What we basically did was we said that the amount of money that we give to a school district, right? If you send your child to a district or a charter school, pretty much the same, right? If you want to send your child to a private school or a religious school, whatever.
Or homeschool.
We'll give you the same amount of money. Because we believe that it's the government's responsibility to fund the K-12 education of children. And so that's fine. If you want to choose to go to a private school, we're not going to pay you full tuition, but you get the same amount. That was the idea. So we obviously figured that a lot of people are going to jump onto that, sure. And I think it creates diversity and competition in the K-12 system, and it's overall good. And it's also parental choice. So
and you think people were going to buy boats with it and horses and
I don't think anybody bought a boat or a horse. But two things. Number one, we definitely need to have more people than the current 12 reviewing.
Only 12 people oversee the expenditure part.
And we definitely
for what, 90,000
and we need to jump
students.
that up. However, I want to make it clear that we don't do the level of scrutiny that critics of the ESA screening program do for other programs. For Medicaid, we don't look at every bill that comes in a lot of these programs. So I would suspect that they will have some sort of a program where either they randomly sample or they target certain bills. But yeah, we need more people. We need more targeting. But a lot of the abuses that came out were corrected when it was found that they did that, because the people were breaking the rules by doing those things.
How do you answer to the reporting? I want to give credit, I think, to Channel 12 of the accounts that have, in some cases, tens of thousands, other cases, hundreds of thousands of dollars.
200 people have more than $100,000 each. 10 accounts have more than $200,000 each.
And
one account has $261,000.
And they plan on using it for college, which is not what I thought this program was for.
Let's get the Secretary's statement.
Yeah, well, that's because they created a system that gives away tax dollars to their funders, their political funders. It's just really that simple, and it violates those accounts that they're intending to use for college, violate exactly what Senator Kavanagh just said. He said it was for K-12. Well, once those kids graduate from high school, the money ought to revert back to the state. I mean, if that was the purpose of the program. Moreover, no, there isn't enough accountability or scrutiny. Regular school districts in Arizona undergo not only federal compliance audits, but state compliance audits, and they have to pay for the audits out of the money that they're given by the state to do all the rest of this stuff. And those audits, by the way, are so thorough that they have to compare the number of tickets sold to the number of cash brought in for their football games. Imagine for school lunches and bus drivers and all of the rest of the stuff that they have to pay for. But none of the private schools have to do any of that sort of scrutiny or accountability. And here's why. Because the folks that fund the politicians that passed this got their money and continue to get their money into from these very same folks. It's not that complicated. If we believe that we're going to be fiscal conservatives, which I believe Senator Kavanagh claims to be, and I think he is.
I try.
Then where's the audit that is the same? Because these are taxpayer dollars that you would defend to the death, but there's zero accountability. And that was built in when you guys started this program. You did not want accountability. You claimed that the documents are owned by these third-party vendors. Those are the same schools that you could hold accountable the same way you do public school districts. So I'd like to know why it is that you don't hold those taxpayer dollars as accountable as you do the regular taxpayer dollars. That's an important question.
Number one, there is accountability. We don't just write the checks and forget about it. In fact, some of these so-called abuses were discovered by the people doing this. Number two, you paint the district school system as being under this magnifying glass. One word, Tollison? We've had unbelievable, ridiculous misspending in district schools. And that is not, by the way, and I'm not saying we should abolish district schools because of misspending. So you shouldn't say we should abolish
that's a question.
ESAs.
Wait a minute. That's a question of enforcement, not a question of accountability. The reason you know about Tollison without having to have Channel 12 News do an investigation is because those books are wide open and people can just look at the reports and the audits. 12 News has to go send investigators from the media that you so love and adore into these places and do these deep investigations before you find out about any of the fraud, because the system you designed has zero actual accountability.
They're reviewing. They have 12 people, and we need more reviewing.
People. How many applicants are there?
Is that
how many ESA vouchers are there?
You said no accountability.
How many ESA vouchers? Well,
you said
look,
no. You want to retract
how
that
low do you want the
statement?
bar to go?
85,000 students enrolled currently, and 12 people are looking for
Yeah,
misuse of spending.
And
it's
I agree.
ridiculous.
I agree that we have to hire more people. I'm not denying that.
Why didn't you guys do that during the budget?
So here's
Well,
the
I
other
didn't
thing.
have anybody.
Here's the other thing that
nobody
I think
came
is
with that
super
number.
interesting, that the part of the discussion that gets avoided. Let's say you've got a private school and the tuition is $10,000 a year. ESA vouchers come along and you're given, what, $8,000? Suddenly
75.
the tuition is going to go up to $18,000 a year. So you're still making the $10,000 that Yeah, a lot of the private
schools raise their
Hold on
tuition?
a second.
Name me
You know
one
why?
school
You know
that
why we
raised
don't
their
have
tuition.
proof, Mr. Kavanagh? Because you didn't put any
I
accountability into
can
this system.
go to the website of
You
any
didn't
private
put
school
any
and see what
accountability
their
into
tuition
these
is.
systems.
So
So you can try to
which
avoid-
private schools raise their tuition.
Where's the accountability?
Name me one private school.
Where's the accountability?
Well, obviously, I can't hold you accountable to your
Where is
statements.
the accountability? Where's the accountability for those taxpayer
said
dollars? And by the way,
I already said we're doing
those
this for
taxpayer
me.
dollars don't just come from parents. Those taxpayer dollars come from people who are not parents, from friends and neighbors who may not have kids. What you're doing is taking, and let's say you've got a wealthy
The same
family
people
who
pay
is
district
writing
schools.
off just about everything
let's-
because they might be a business owner and they're
maybe
not
we
actually
need to
paying
know-
any
maybe we
effective
need to
taxes.
know who
But hold
gets
on a
what.
second. Why don't we look at this circumstance where someone who's got the capacity to write off almost all of what they do and consume because they're a business owner, they're wealthy enough to pay for their kids, they're not actually paying anything into taxes, but you guys are giving them somebody else's tax money,
So if
and there's
somebody's
no accountability.
So if somebody's wealthy, they
last
should pay.
word, last word,
Somebody's wealthy, they should pay for their kids' education. You're going to start billing wealthy people when they send their kids to district
Hell
schools?
yes, tax the rich and then eat them.
For district schools?
For
Whoa.
everything. For
Headline
everything.
tomorrow,
For
Secretary.
everything. I'm a guy who's a bottom-up working class guy who wants the working people to get what they ought to have, and that is a fair shake.
Tuition
and
for
you're
public
catering
schools.
to the billionaires.
This is a headline,
And that's
tuition
nuts.
for public
That's
schools.
nuts.
Got a question for you. Throw it out there to both of you. Will the Epstein files or the Epstein story, for lack of better terms, determine who the next governor of Arizona is? Partly because Congressman Andy Biggs, who's running for governor as a Republican, while at one point being very in favor of releasing Epstein files, has suddenly changed his tune. Do you think this will come back to haunt him?
I don't think it's going to have any impact in the Arizona gubernatorial race. I think there's a lot of other issues that will. And the implication there is that Andy Biggs is going to get the Republican nomination. I really don't know. I don't know that that's true. What you've got in his erstwhile opponent, and we'll just talk about the top two right now because there might end up being other people. And again, I'm not talking in my official capacity. I have to make sure to say that.
Yes.
Personal opinion.
You've got someone who has run statewide, and there's a good argument that but for Matt Salmon, she would have been the candidate back in 2022. And I think she's going to come out swinging. She's got one of two endorsements from Donald Trump. Now Andy Biggs has the other one.
Right.
I don't know how you
True.
do.
Yeah.
I don't know how you do more than one. I think that's a lot of fun. He's like Oprah with stuff. You get an endorsement,
Right.
and you get an endorsement. But
Why would you vote
if Biggs gets the nomination, I don't think this is going to be the biggest of
Won't
all
hurt him.
issues. It's like the flip flop. Like he's never flip flopped on stuff before.
But why would you vote against a resolution that would have forced the release of the Epstein files? Don't we all want to know?
Because you're
what's in
scared that dear leader's going to be on the file, which is what we all know.
Let's be realistic. First of all, the Epstein file is the biggest nothing burger since Al Capone's tomb.
Whoa.
Anybody remembers?
Oh,
Geraldo
you're going to
Rivera?
regret
The
saying
vault.
that.
I
Yes.
spent like 2 hours watching that stupid show when they came up with a little bottle.
Yeah.
Anyway,
It was Geraldo.
look,
Yeah.
Jerry
if there
Rivers.
was something,
Jerry
Yeah.
Rivers.
Jerry
right?
Rivers.
if there was something linking President Trump to Epstein, Biden had that file for his entire presidency. It would have been all over the place before the election.
So
Wait, you're
why-
assuming.
Nothing
You're
there.
assuming.
Nothing.
You're assuming that Joe Biden would act as unscrupulously and as shamelessly as you guys would.
You are correct.
Okay.
You are correct in terms of him acting. Not that I'm unscrupulous. Joe Biden would not have acted because he was senile. Whoever was running the government would have released the information.
So why
to Joe Biden.
so why hide it?
the
nothing there.
180, the flip
Well, why
flop, the
hide it?
change from
Well, if there's
I don't know.
nothing there,
release the
show it.
files, they're on my desk.
Why did
to
they hide the
what
Kennedy
files?
Kennedy assassination stuff? Why do they hide the Martin Luther King?
The Kennedy assassination was a president getting killed. This is a president being a pedophile.
What
That's
president?
different.
What president you accusing of being a pedophile?
Donald Trump.
What evidence do you have to that effect? That's
Well,
slanderous.
it's about that. It's not. I'm
That's
not
a
saying that
stupid
that's there,
accusation.
and we wouldn't know.
They would have released
Hold on a
it in a
second. Is it
nanosecond.
stupid? Have you heard him talk about his daughter when she was young?
Oh,
Are you kidding me?
Well, let's
Look, okay,
please,
hold
get
on.
me-
You're
get me
saying there's
boots.
nothing there.
The sewerage
You're
is now
saying
flooding the
you're
room.
saying there's
Oh,
nothing in the file.
clothespin.
If you're saying there's nothing in the file, then why not release the whole thing?
Because as many
No,
people,
why not?
Can I explain? Because as many people in the Justice Department and as many legal scholars have stated, there are many, many names on there, and they are not in the least associated with being a pedophile and the island.
Fair.
They're just many of the thousands of people for business and other reasons he associated with. And anybody's name on that list, even though they're totally innocent, their life would be destroyed. So to get back to our immigration thing,
So
that's
let's
cruel and
redact.
inhuman.
So why don't we do something that we do all the time and redact out names from people who would not be associated with pedophilia, and then release the whole file, and redact the victims,
How do you
and then release the whole file?
how do you do that?
Well, you do it
Who's
with a black.
associ-
You do it with a black marker.
Well,
You get the lawyers in the
wait a
room.
minute. If they
Trust
have-
me, it happens all
Well, I
the
think it's a
time.
part of the problem.
It
We
happens
haven't-
all the time.
Well,
Who
one
has
second.
evidence that anybody was involved in pedophilia?
We don't know because you guys won't release the file.
So who looks at the file? The New York
people
Times?
the people at the Justice
Well, I was
Department.
going to say, I think isn't
they
that
have
part of
looked
the
at the file,
problem?
and they said they said the names
Other-
don't have proof.
Other
enough
than
proof.
other than Epstein and Miss Maxwell,
Right.
that nobody else has been charged.
But people
when
are
we
forgetting
know there
that
were hundreds of
She's been
victims.
convicted of
Right.
enabling.
We don't-
you
but we don't
this,
know who
and
the
she's
other-
in prison because of it.
Right.
So
We don't
there
know who the
has
other
to have
people
been
involved
enough
are.
evidence.
Nobody's been charged.
There has to have been.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. Just because they haven't been charged doesn't mean
by
the evidence
Democrat
doesn't
and
exist.
Republican justice
John, you
departments.
know as well as I do, because you're a cop, just because the crime was committed and there's evidence of it doesn't mean you prosecute it. You understand this.
Well, I'm
so
not
don't
releasing
say,
names willy-nilly and destroying
don't
people's
sit there and
lives.
say
And
you
those
have to
names should be-
charge some. Don't sit there and say you have to charge someone for something to have happened. You
No.
know better.
Nobody,
so don't use
no,
that argument.
Nobody's been
Don't
charged.
use that argument.
Nobody's been charged.
What about Ghislaine Maxwell?
I'm talking
Other
about
than-
other than her and
She's been
him.
convicted and is serving 20 years, so you can't say no one has been charged. Moreover, you're
None of the people on the
obfuscating
list.
by saying if you're not charged, there's no crime. That's bullshit,
I'm
and
not
you know
saying
that.
All I'm saying is that reasonable observers state that if you release these names, most of the people have nothing wrong, and you're destroying their lives. I have no problem
So
with
redact
justice.
the names.
I
of
have
the
no
not-
problem
So
with
redact the
that's
names of
fine.
people. Well, good. Then you're okay with releasing it after redaction,
No, the Justice Department looks at it. Yeah.
and then redacts, and then releases.
If they have people that there's probable cause to believe committed pedophilia, fine. I have no problem.
I
with
mean,
that.
okay,
should
there we
charge
go.
them.
Then
All right.
release
All
the
right.
files.
And we're going to
Let's
charge
go.
tuition in public schools.
Well,
Senator-
that was what you said. I didn't
Senator
say that.
Kavanaugh.
I did not say that. I did not say that.
Rerolling the tape.
And
Senator-
besides, by the way, I have to say something
he's
before we,
walking-
before we go. I have to
He's
say
walking
something.
back before he leaves
I have
the
to
room.
say something
What's that?
before we go. I've worked with this guy
Yeah.
on several issues, and before we started this whole thing, we were sitting here very much agreeing on something.
Yes.
So, as much as I can't stand some of his opinions, and I think he's full of it on some stuff, this is a guy that I can work with, just like some of his colleagues who texted me during the show saying I was doing a good job. I just want to make sure everybody
Well,
knows
we
that.
appreciate both of you being in the war room. I assure
Wait a
you.
minute. We don't have any rhinos left. How could you be texting?
That's what the war room is
Yeah.
about. It's about different opinions, and then at the end, look
Shake
at it.
hands
They
and-
shake the
and
hands.
on
There
the
we
way.
go.
It's the kumbaya
I
room
would,
now.
I would take him out for a beer right now, but he's
All
going
right.
to take a pizza home to his old lady.
That's right.
State Senator Kavanagh, Secretary of State Fontes, thank you guys both for being
What are you doing
inside
next
the
week,
war
guys?
room, all right?
Thanks for watching Outspoken with Bruce and Gaydos. Tap to watch more from KTAR News and click the button in the middle to subscribe.